How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we start Daf Yud Gimel, Daf 13 of Masechta Makos. Friends, your friends, today we begin the third and final parak of Masechta Makos. It feels like we just started Masechta Makos. We did just start Masechta Makos. We're already in the third and final parak of the Masechta. Only about another week and a half left in this Masechta. This is definitely one of the shorter ones, especially after learning the likes of Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, Bava Basra, Sanhedrin. These are big Masechtas. This is mamash walk in the park. I mean, we've had other Masechtas that are like this. I mean, Moed Katan is not a lot of. How long is Moed Katan? Maybe Chavtes or something. But I think this is probably one of the shorter ones for sure. But after all the long, invested Masechtas we've been learning, this is mamash walk in the park. Right, here we go. Okay, we're going to start the third and final parak, Masechta Makos ve'elu hein haloikin. And these are those who are whipped. Habal achosov al achos oviv, says the Mishnah, somebody who sleeps with his sister. Somebody who sleeps with the... So if you sleep with your sister, it's... Alright. My mom heard sleep with your sister and she decided she had to come. All right. Well, welcome. All right. Let's see. What's going on there? Laundry. All right. Maybe I will pause for a second. Okay. So yeah, sleeping with your sister is a chiyuv kares. Now, however, if you what the Mishnah is saying is that if you warn a person, hey, you sleep with your sister, we're gonna whip you. So then they'll get whipped. Okay. So ve'al achos aviv, or with one's father's sister. Ve'al achos imo, or one's mother's sister. Ve'al achos ishto, one's wife's sister. Ve'al eshes achiv, the wife of one's brother. Ve'al eshes achi aviv, the wife of the brother of one's father. Ve'al anida, somebody sleeps with a nida. Okay. In all those scenarios, you can get whipped for it. Almane l'kohen gadol. If an almana marries a kohen gadol, that is a lav. That is a mitzvah slosa. Say it's not allowed. Grusha v'chalutza l'kohen hedget, or if a gerusha or a chalutza marries a kohen hedget mamzeres, or maybe even sleeps with a. Oh, that's an interesting shot. Is it sleeps with or marries? That's an interesting shot. Let me see. What does it say here in the our scroll? Come on, go to where I want you to go. Okay, let's see what is it. In cohabits. Interesting. Okay, fine. So for having bia with, okay, sleeps with. Fine. Bigush v'chlutza the kohen hedget. Also in these scenarios there will be whipping. Mamzeres unisina li Yisrael. If a Yisrael marries a mamzeres or a nisina from the Gevoinim, by the Wasserträgers and the Holzschleppers. Bas Yisrael and Nosen or Mamzer, Bas Yisrael marries to a Nosen or a Mamzer. Now, in all those cases, you can get whipped. Almana v'grusha. Now, if a woman is both an almana and a grusha, she was married twice. The first time she got widowed, the second time she got divorced, and then she marries a kohen. I guess probably a kohen gadol. So kohen gadol is not allowed to marry either of those. Chayven alea mishum shnei shemis, so be chayiv for two separate things. He'll get 80 lashes, 2 sets of 40. It is so loud upstairs. Grusha b'chlutza, but so far it's not distracting, so that's okay. Grusha b'chlutza, if a woman is divorced but also chalitzad, in that case, however, einu chayiv ela mishum achas bavad. Only give me chayiv once, because chalitza is learned out from a reboy, learned out from a it's learned out from a reboy. It's not explicitly in the pasuk. So therefore, as we said earlier, that if a kohen hedget has bia with a chalutza, you will get makos. But if it's paired together with another thing, it would only be incur one set of makos, not a double set. A impure person who ate holy stuff. Or somebody goes into the Beis Hamikdash when he is tamei. Ve'ochel chelev vadam. Person eats chelev. Person eats blood. V'noser. Person eats meat of a korban after its expiration. Ufigel. Somebody who eats the meat of a korban. Chutz. That was kind of like one of the avodas was done with machshavas chutz lizmano. Maybe chutz l'mkoma also. Not sure what does Rashi say by pigel. Anything for pigel? I don't know if it. Oh, pigel nami macho. Yeah, they're screaming up there. Okay, but definitely chutz lizmano, I guess. Somebody has intention when I think doing any of the 4 avodas. I think that came up in Masechta Meila. I'm sure it's going to come up a lot more in Seder Kodshim that we're going to be starting in a few months. But I think maybe if you slaughter or do the Kabbalas Adam or Halachas Adam or Zrikas Adam with intention to eat the korban outside of its proper time or outside of its proper place. So I assume that we're at least talking about outside of its proper time here. Let me actually see. Did they say anything over here in the art school about how do they define pigel? Do they include chutz? Come on. Pigel. What's 16? Note 16. Pigel. Literally, first and second become okay. And finally, the coins performance. Any of the 4 blood service, great. Slaughtering, receiving the blood, transporting to the altar, or throwing the blood on the altar, great. And the sacrifice, meat burning, after the time allotted, right? Exactly. Okay. Yes. He doesn't seem to say anything about outside of its proper place, though. Okay. Fine. Now, I think that's just a lav. But I guess if it's a lav, though, then you should be chayiv makos for it. Anyways, I don't know. So maybe it's that also. Vitame, and somebody who eats meat, holy, right, sacrificial meat, kodshim that is tame. Somebody who slaughters a korban or offers a korban outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Va'ochel chometz b'Pesach. Oh. Somebody eats chometz on Pesach. I'm recording Mamash Erev Shabbos right before we're getting into Pesach mode. So if you eat chometz on Pesach, you can get whipped. Somebody who eats on Yom Kippur. Somebody who does malacha on Yom Kippur. Somebody who makes shemen amishcha. So somebody who makes the ketoras. Somebody who anoints himself with the anointing oil. Somebody who eats animals that were killed but not slaughtered. Trephis, animals that were going to die within 12 months because they have problems with them. Shkotzim, remosim, creepies and crawlies and bugs. Achal tevel, person eats untied produce. Meiser rishon shlonid l'trumaso, or meiser rishon that the trumas meiser has not yet been separated, which is also tevel. Meiser sheni, or meiser sheni outside of Jerusalem. Vehekdish shelo niftu, right, or hekdish that was not redeemed. That could be talking about like me'ilah, for example. So, kama yoichal min tevel v'yechayev, how much tevel do you have to eat in order to be chayev? Reb Shimon Omer kolshu, any amount, says Reb Shimon. V'chachom say kazayis, you have to eat in olives worth to be chayev. Amiloy Reb Shimon says to them, yatem modem li b'ochel nemola kolshu shu chayev. Don't you agree that if a person eats an ant, then it'll be chayev? So they said, okay, I understand why eating just a tiny ant would make you chayiv, because you ate a whole ant. Sure, it's tiny, but it's a whole thing. So Shimon says, okay, fine, okay. So admit to me that even if you eat one wheat thingy, small little wheat thingy, you should be chayiv for tevel for that, argues Reb Shimon. Now, says the Gemara, Chayve Kresus Katani, Chayve Misus Bezdin Lo Katani. So if you notice in our Mishnah, we mentioned Chayve Kresus, things that you Chayve Kares for, you can get Makis for. We don't mention in the Mishnah any Chayve Misus Bezdin. It doesn't say in the Mishnah that if a person is Mechal Shabbos and he's warned, hey, you're going to get Makis, that right there you can get Makis. Chayve Kresis can get Makis. Chayve Mrs. Bezdin, according to our Mishnah, cannot. Now, so Chayve Kresis Katoni. So we have in our Mishnah Kores things. Chayve Mrs. Bezdin lo Katoni. We have no instances of capital offenses. Mastisa Mani Rabbi Kiva. So our Mishnah is Rabbi Kiva. The Tanya that we learn in the Brisa, Echod Chayve Kresis ve'Echod Chayve Mrs. Bezdin Yeshna Michal Malkus Arboim Div Rabbi Yishmael. So according to Rabbi Yishmael, both by Chayve Kores, like we had in our Mishnah, but also by Chayve Misos Bezdin, according to Rabbi Yishmael, you can get Makis. Says Rashi, the assumption for now is that if a person is Mechal Shabbos, and you warn him, hey, if you be Mechal Shabbos, in addition to being stoned, you're also going to get Makis. Right, as Rashi says, Misa u Malkis lo kevames. So then, of course, he'll get Skila for being Mechal Shabbos, but he'll additionally, probably before the Skila, get Makis as well by capital cases, by capital punishments as well. That's Rabbi Shmuel's opinion. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Rabbi Kiva says, Chayve Kresis Yeshnon Bichlal Malkis Arboyim, that Chayve Kresis you can get Makis for example, right, the scenarios in our Mishnah with Zechiyuv Koris, so you can get Makis for that. She'im Osu Tshuve Bezdin Shal Maila Mochalin Loin Chayve Miso is Bezdin Einen Bichlal Malkis Arboyim She'im Osu Tshuve Ein Bezdin Shal Mato Mochalin Loin. Rabbi Akiva is referencing a concept of kidei rishasoi b'misbar. We've seen in other places mishum risha achas atam mechayva v'yatam mechayva mishum shtei rishayos, that a person only gets one punishment. He doesn't get two punishments, right? And therefore, if he's chayiv misa and he's chayiv makis, he's not going to get both of them. He's only going to get one of them. So now Rabbi Kiva says something interesting, which is that, okay, so Rabbi Kiva's opinion is that if somebody's chayiv misa, so we're not going to give him makis. But if he's chayiv koris, if he's warned for makis, then he can get makis. So now the question is what? Because after all, by koris, if you give him makis, he's getting makis and koris. What about the fact that you can only get one punishment? So, excuse me, mom. So Rabbi Kiva says something very interesting, which is, well, for a chiyuv karis, you can always do tshuva. For a chiyuv karis, you could do tshuva, right? A person needs chaylev, so he's chayiv karis. So he could do tshuva, and then he'll no longer be chayiv karis. So if we warn him, hey, if you eat the chaylev, we're going to whip you. So then we can whip him. What about the fact that he's also additionally chayiv karis? He's going to be getting two punishments. Well, if he does tshuva, he won't get karis, and therefore he'll so Memele he'll only be getting actually one punishment, the whipping, because he can do tshuva and not actually get the karis. Masha Einkin, which is not the case by capital punishment, right? A person is Mechal Shabbos and he's warned, don't be Mechal Shabbos, you're going to get skila, and he does it anyways. So he could do all the tshuva that he wants, Bezdin is still going to stone him. So that is why, so by karis, since there's an option for him to do tshuva on the karis, and he'll only be getting there for the makis, and he won't be getting karis, so you can give him makis. But by misas bezdin, since if he's chayiv misas bezdin, he's going to get misas bezdin. There's no way out of misas bezdin, so therefore he would not get makis, because then Memele would be getting two punishments, makis and misa, and we don't do that. So I'm going to read Rabbi Kiva again, second line of the Gemara. Rabbi Kiva Omer says, Rabbi Kiva, chayve kresos yeshnon bichlal malkis arboim, that for chiyuve karis, yes, you can get makis, because you want, and it won't be a problem of two punishments, because shem asu tshuva, because after all, if you do tshuva, bezdin shel maile mochalin loen, bezdin shel maile will be moichel, and then you won't be getting two punishments, you'll only be getting makis. Chayve misos bezdin einen bichlal malkis arboim. However, by chayve misas bezdin, by capital punishment, there is no, you will not be getting makis, you'll only be getting the capital punishment. She'im asu tshuve ein bezdin shalmata mechal loin, because you could do as much tshuve as you want, but bezdin is not going to get you off the hook. Bezdin can't do that. If you chayv misas bezdin, you chayv misas bezdin, and therefore you don't get makis, because then you would get makis and misas bezdin. That would be 2 punishments, and we don't give 2 punishments. Rabbi Yitzchak Omer says, Rabbi Yitzchak chayve kresis bichlal oyu, that when it comes to arayis, so what does Rashi say? It says, "Kikol asher yaisim kol atoevos ha'elev nichsu anefashos v'gomer." Anybody who does any of the arayis is going to get karis. So the pasuk says by arayis already that you're going to get karis. Now, if that's the case, v'lama yotzos karis ba'achoso. So then, why by one's sister does the Torah specify that you'll get karis for sleeping with your sister? Of course you will. It's arayis. All arayis is karis. So all arayis is karis. So why specify by your sister that there's karis? Of course there is. So laduna bekaris vel malchus. They say, yeah, karis is what the punishment is. Karis, not malchus. Karis. So Rabbi Yitzchak disagrees and says that even by karis also there's no malchus there, only karis. My taima to Rabbi Shmuel. How come Rabbi Shmuel says that you can get makis and misa? Dichsiv imloi sishmar lasos is called divrei Torah hazos, because the pasuk says that if you don't guard to do the Torah, so meaning if you do any averis, uchsiv v'hifla shemes makeischa, and you're going to get makis. V'hifla afloya zoi eino yodea mai. What's this afloya? Kishu omer, when it says v'pilo ashoifet, and he pilo is apparently is like afloya. Hashoifet v'kol lefonav hare afloya zo malchus he. Uchsiv im lo sishma lasos is called v'gomer. Basically, because the pasuk had said im lo sishma lasos, right? If you don't do the mitzvahs, if you do averis, so it says v'hifla Hashem is makos, you're going to get makis. So I don't care whatever that avera might be. Chiyav misas bezdin, chiyav karis, whatever it is. If you do an avera, you can get makis, and that means even if it's a chiyav misas bezdin, you could still get makis. Yochi chayve ese nami. Well, if it's just saying, if you don't do any of the mitzvahs, so even if you don't do a mitzvah essay, you don't say kriya shema, what, you can get makis for that? So imlo sishmar ksiv, no, it's not talking about mitzvahs essay for failing to do mitzvahs essays. No, you wouldn't get makis for that, because it says imlo tishmor. Oven amr Eloi, Tamar oven amr Eloi, kamagam shemer hishamer. Wherever it says hishamer, and I think that's the point of here, is it says imlo tishmor, or pen, or ve'al, or al. Eno ella loy saise. It's a mitzvahs loy saise, and therefore, so when it says im lo sishmor, we're talking about mitzvahs lo ta'aseh. If you violate a mitzvah lo ta'aseh, even if it has a chiyuv misas bezdin, you can get makis for that. Yochi, if that's the case, lav shein bo ma'aseh nami. Okay, well then we should say that a lav she'ein bo ma'aseh, even when there's no ma'aseh, you should be able to get makis. But we hold lav. I think it's taka machlokas, but anyways, the assumption is in this Gemara that lav she'ein bo ma'aseh ein loikin olav. But if we're saying that it applies to all mitzvahs lo saiseh, then you should even get makis for lav she'ein bo ma'aseh la asos. It says lo sishma la asos. So you have to. It has to be, there has to be a ma'aseh in order to get makis for it. Lav shenitak le'esei nami. Okay, but what about lav anitak le'esei? Right? For example, by stealing, so you don't get makis for stealing, because by stealing you have to just return it, right? Or by noser, it says vanoser menu bayish tisrofu, right? That if there's noser, if you have noser, right? Lo susim menu ad boker, right? It's korban pesach. So if you leave it over to the morning? Well, you don't get makis because it says bayish tisrofu, burn it. So we say over there, we tell you what to do. Burn it. You don't get makis. Instead, what you do is you burn it. So right, the leftover korban pesach. So there you right. So we don't get makis, but im lo sishma la'asos, you should get makis for that. Dumya delav de chasimo. Yeah, but it says in the pasuk lo isachsim shor bedisha, right? it says, where's the pasuk I'm looking for? Wait, where's that? Pasuk K, right? What does it say? Okay. It says, "Arbaim yakenu lo Yosef ben Yosef lakos ale la makaraba v'niglachichanechol leisachsum shorbedisho." That lesachsum shorbedisho is juxtaposed to makis to say that the type of things that you get makis for are things like losachsum shorbedisho. It's a lo ta'aseh, that there's a clearly defined action, right? Don't muzzle the ox while it is plowing. There's no, it's not nitak le'eseh, kilu. That losachsum shorbedisho is the type of avere losaseh they can get makis for, and that can even be if it's a chiyuv misa according to Rabbi Shmuel. Any lav that is just a regular mitzvah losaseh, and you do it, so you can get makis for that, even if there's a chiyuv misa. Hashadasaslachi kulunami dumya dilab dachasima. So we could just say, okay, that is the place where Rabbi Shmuel gets his opinion from, that any losaseh that is like lav dachasima, you can get makis for it, and that can be even if it has misas bezdin. V'Rabbi Akiva, my time, how come Rabbi Akiva says that there is makis by karis? Kederish also mishum. Oh no, I'm sorry. Why does Rabbi Akiva say that there would be that there is no makis by misas bezdin? So kederish also mishum misha achas atamchav mishum shtei rishayos, that you only get one punishment, you don't get two punishments. So you're not going to get makis and misa. If you chayv misa, you're only chayv misa. You don't get makis. Rabbi Shmuel, Hane Mile Miso Momen. Rabbi Shmuel says, yeah, I understand that there's the pasuk of Mishum Kedei, from which we learn Mishum Misha Achas Atamchav Atamchav Mishum Mishtayus. However, Mishum Shtei Rishayus. However, that's, for example, we're not going to give you Misa and Mammon, or Malkos uMammon. Aval Misa uMalkis, but says Rabbi Shmuel that Misa and Malkis are basically the same thing. If you hit somebody enough times, you'll kill him. So Kilu, makis is basically like a type of death. Misa arichto he. Right? Makis is just, it's kind of, right, it's just like a long version misa. If you hit him enough times, he'll get killed. We're probably going to learn we're definitely going to learn within the next week and a half about calculating how much the guy can handle, so he doesn't get killed. So therefore, Rabbi Shmuel says that you can get makis and misa because they're basically like the same thing. According to Rabbi Akiva, if he's so concerned about mishum misha achas atamchav v'atamchav mishum shtei rishayos, well then the yachi chayve kreises nami. Well then also by chiyuve karis, there's going to be two punishments, makis and karis. Rabbi Akiva. So my omar shem asu tshuve. And what are you going to say? Oh yeah, but technically though he could do tshuva for the karis, and then it will only be makis. But hashter mias lo avdi. But he hasn't yet done tshuva. So as of now, he'll be getting makis and karis. So Amar Babo says Babo beferish ribsa teire chayve kresis lemalkis. Says Babo that is somebody here? I think somebody's here or somebody just left something at the door to make me think that somebody's here. I think somebody just put a cart at the door. So now it just looks like there's like a midget standing at the door. Anyways. Is midget? No, you're not supposed to say that. Okay, whatever it is. Pretend I didn't say it. Let's get back to learning. Anyways. So says Rabbi Bau that yeah, but the thing is that the Torah explicitly said that by karis you can get makis de gomer le'ene. It says by sleeping with one's sister. It says le'ene. What does it say? V'shashayikach es achos basaviv o basimo v'aser vaso v'sir aser vaso. So it says le'ene by sleeping with your sister, which is karis, And it says also by Makos, it says, it says le'einecha by Makos. So it says le'einei by Karis, sleeping with his sister, and it says le'einecha by Makos to teach that there is Makos by Karis. Maskifla Reb Abba bar Mamel. Reb Abba bar Mamel asks a kasha, Yochi, if that's the case, Chayve Misos Bezdin Nami. Well, then let's say that by Chayve Misos Bezdin also there should be Makos based on that same kind of approach. Because Nigmereim Me'ene, the pasuk says by Avodah Zarah, it says Vaya Me'ene Eden Esesel Shkaga, etc. By Avodah Zarah, it says Me'ene Mi Le'enecha. So let's say that it says Me'ene by Avodah Zarah, and it says Le'enecha by Makos, to say that by something with the Chiyah of Misas Bezdin, there could also be Makos. No, we won't say it, because it's done in Le'ene Mi Le'enecha, ve'ein done in Me'ene Mi Le'enecha, that we judge Le'ene of Karis from Le'enecha by Makos. We don't learn Me'ene of Misas Bezdin from Le'enecha of Makos. So my nafkamina. So which Gemara says, why not? V'atana d'rei b'shmo v'shava koin uva koin. Right? We can make a gzeir shav between v'shava koin and uva koin, even though v'shav and uva are two completely different words. So certainly here, me'ene and le'ene should be good enough, right? For Karis and Makos, we're learning out le'ene and le'enecha, not exactly the same word. So we should, why can't you use me'ene and le'enecha? So Zoe Shiva, Zoe Bia, right? We say that Vishav and Uva are basically learned out the same way, even though they're different words. V'od, and more so, fine, even if you don't want to learn out Me'ene from Le'enecha, but learn out Me'ene from Le'ene, right? It said Le'ene by Karis, and it says Me'ene by Misas Bezin. So say, once already you learned out Le'ene from Le'ene, right? Le'ene and Le'enecha to teach Makos by Karis, then learn out Me'ene and Le'ene, right, for Misas Bezin and Karis, to say that just like by Karis is Makos, also by Misas Bezin is Makos. Right, so Ligmar Me'ene mi Le'ene. To Agamr Le'ene mi Le'enecha. You already learned Le'ene from Le'enecha to say that by Karis there is Makos. So learn out from Karis to Misas Bezin said there's Makos. Wow. Okay. So what's the dealio? We're trying to figure out how come Rabbi Kiva is saying that by Kares there is Makos. So Kibbutz Minei Rabbi Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak hears Rav Abba bar Mamel's protest, his question, and therefore Shmuel bar Yitzchak suggests Kedei Rish also Mishum Risha Achas Atam Chayvo V'Atam Chav Mishum Shtei Rishayos B'Risha Mesur LeBezin Kozim Medach. That when the pasuk says Mishum Risha Achas Atam Chayvo V'Atam Chav Mishum Shtei Rishayos, that we only punish a person once, not twice, that's talking about punishments that are in the hands of Bezdin. We're not going to be mechayiv somebody Mamin and Makos or Mamin and Misa, but Kares and Makos, Kares is not in the hands of Bezdin, so it doesn't fall under the concept of Mishum Risha Achas Atam Chayv V'Atam Chav Mishum Shtei Rishayos. So therefore, according to Rabbi Kiva, there could be Kares and Makos. Okay, fine. Now, Rave Omar says, Rave, look, Asu Beilik Tola Kule Alma Lo Plige De'en Loke. Okay, look. Rave says, so we had said up until now that in the Machlekes between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel, so it's talking about if you warned a person for Makos and for Misa, so then, according to Rabbi Shmuel, you would get Makos and Misa. According to Rabbi Kiva, only Makos. No, I'm sorry, Rabbi Kiva would say only Misa, no Makos. Now says Rava, look, Asube Liktala, if the person was warned for that he's going to be killed, well then, Kolyamala Plige Dein Loke Umeis, that he's not going to be whipped and also get capital punishment. Ki Plige, where they argue is the Asube Lemalkus. It's what if, for example, by Chilul Shabbos, which is Chiyav Skila, he was warned that if you're Mechal Shabbos, you can get Makos. Now, of course, from Chal Shabbos, you get skila. But that's not what they warned them. They warned them, if you do this, you're going to get makis. The question is, do you get makis or not? Rabbi Shmuel says, yes, you would get makis. Rabbi Akiva says, no, you would not get makis. Rabbi Shmuel says that when there is a lav that teaches about a warning that you are going to get, that can lead to misas bezdin, for example, chil Shabbos, ain lo kanalav, you can't get makis, and if you warn for makis, you won't get makis. Rabbi Akiva holds lav shnitin lasaris misas bezdin. So Rabbi Shmuel says you can get makis, right? Rabbi Akiva savar lav shnitin lasaris misas bezdin ain lo kanalav. Whereas Rabbi Akiva says that when there's a warning for misas bezdin, you cannot get makis for it. So therefore, if there's someone with a chiyuv misas bezdin and he's warned for makis, Rabbi Shmuel says you could still get makis. Rabbi Akiva says you cannot get makis. Fine. Rabbi Akiva, if that's the case, well then chayve kreis is nami. Lav shenitan lasar is karisu. So frek the Gemara, well then Rabbi Akiva, if you're saying lav shenitan lasar is misas bezdin ein lo kanalav, so then say lav shenitan lasar is karis. Ain lo kanalav. Why don't you say that when there's a warning against karis, right? That if there's a warning in something that with karis, so then you shouldn't be able to get makis. Just like when there's a warning for something that there's misa, you don't get makis. Also, if there's a warning for something that you get karis, there's no makis. So Amalei of Mordechai the Rav Ashi. So says of Mordechai to Rav Ashi, Hachi Omer Avinu Me'agronio Mishmei Deravo Chayve Kresos Lo Tzriche Azhara. It says Hasura, but you can change it to Azhara. That Chayve Kresos don't actually need a warning. Don't actually need a warning. Right? The Chayve Kresos don't actually need a warning. Because, for example, Sharei, Pesach Umila, Anashaf Bishlo, he's here. Because, for example, well, there's another reference to Pesach. Right? A person doesn't do a Korban Pesach, is Chayiv Kares. A person doesn't do Bris Milah, is Chayiv Kares. Now, there's no warning there. There's no lav, and still you can get karis. So we see that by karis you don't actually need a warning. So whenever there is a warning by karis, it's not needed for karis, because as we just proved, you can get karis even without a warning. So what's the warning for? Well, you can warn about makis when it comes to karis. But wait, maybe the azhara means that if you do this, you're going to have to bring a korban. The Pesach umila leis behu be'azhara lo ma'isi korban. Because after all, so korban Pesach and mila, where there's no azhara, there's no warning, so you don't, and there's no korban if you right. You don't bring a korban chatas if you don't bring a korban Pesach or bris milah. There's no korban there. But by chelev, for example, there is a korban. Right? You bring korban chatas for chelev accidentally. So maybe the warning is just that if you do this, you're going to have to bring a korban. No, hasam lavainu taima. No, the reason for korbanos by those has nothing to do with a warning. But elam mishum de iskash kol Torah kul avodas kochavim, because the entire Torah is compared to avodah zar avodas kochavim shev val taise avkol shev val taise. That just like avodah kochavim is a type of thing like, hey, don't do it. Just don't do avodah zarah. If you do avodah zarah by accident, you have to bring a korban. So also it's by lavs, but which excludes Mila and Pesach, but it has nothing to do with the warning. Lafukane dukum essay to exclusion of Pesach and Mila, which is a mitzvah's essay to do. And therefore, the warning has nothing to do with korbanos. So what is the warning by kares? We don't need it for korbanos. We don't need it for kares, because Mila and Pesach, there's kares even without hasara, even without a warning. So rather, what the warning is, when there's a warning by kares, it's to say that you can get makis over there. Cheve, that was Daf Yud Gimel of Masechta Makos. We started the third and final parak of Masechta Makis, Eluin Alokin. We're talking about all sorts of scenarios we can get Makis. We talked about all sorts of stuff about Makis, Machlokas, Rabbi Shmuel and Rab Akiva Be'etzim, about you get Makis and Misa. And what scenarios that could be. Other things came up. Lav v'nita klese, lav shem bo maise, as lav shnit and lasaris misas bezdin, all sorts of interesting sugyas. Peace out.